Hi there Waltineers, I'm Jack and this is DSNY Newscast, and currently Disney has a lot of new projects that are under construction or about to begin construction at the Disney parks around the world, and there's even going to be a global Marvel expansion of sorts at the Disney parks with 4 new Marvel rides that are going to be built over the next few years, and that's what I want to talk about today and talk about the latest details for these ride projects relating to Marvel. Now, where I want to begin is actually Avengers Campus at California Adventure, as it's going to be doubling in size. Now, as you currently measure out Avengers Campus, it's approximately 4.5 acres if you measure out the boundaries there. So to be doubling in size means that it's going to be going up to 9 acres for the entirety of the land. But that expansion space isn't going to be used for guest walkable space for the land itself, but they're going to be used for these massive show buildings for these 2 new attractions within Avengers Campus. And the biggest show building is obviously going to be the Avengers e-ticket attraction, which is going to be called Avengers Infinity Defense. And it's going to be a massive show building there. But even the flat ride, which is an innovative flat ride, but it's called Stark Flight Lab, that's going to be using up quite a sizable footprint as well within the actual expansion space. So with these 2 new attractions, it's obviously going to be doubling the capacity of Avengers Campus from Web Slingers and Mission Breakout to getting 4 rides within this land. And so let's now begin by talking about Avengers Infinity Defense, as we've actually got some brand new footage of the behind the scenes developmental work going on at Imagineering for this attraction, as it was featured in episode 3 of the YouTube series called We Call Us Imagineering on the Walt Disney Imagineering YouTube channel, which I'll put a link to down below. And as we can see in this footage, it wasn't stated that this is Infinity Defense necessarily in the actual episode itself, but we can see from what we know so far about this attraction that this is definitely Infinity Defense, what we're looking at within the actual footage here. And it's great to see this, as it confirms yet again that this is most likely going to be using the exact same ride system and technology behind the Peter Pan Neverland Adventure ride that recently debuted last year at Fantasy Springs in Tokyo Disney Sea. So that's something which I said quite a few years ago, just judging by the maquettes and models at the time, that it looked like it was going to be most likely the same ride system, but now this is most definitely going to be using the same ride system, which means that it uses a full 6 degrees of freedom motion base and a turntable and track system, which is obviously going to be very useful in creating that sense of flying in a Avengers Quinjet within this ride itself. Now, we also know that the ride narrative is it's a multiverse attraction. We'll be going through the various Marvel multiverses, and we'll actually be battling alongside the Avengers against King Thanos. Now, to do this, from a story perspective, they're going to be using jump points, which were first introduced in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and also used in Cosmic Rewind over at Epcot. But from a technological standpoint, as we can see in the footage, this is going to be using the screen-based curtain door mechanism that was seen in Pirates of the Caribbean Battle for Sunken Treasure over at Shanghai Disneyland. But considering that it's going to be using very much the same technology as within the Peter Pan ride, that used a blend of physical set pieces and also digital media. And it actually used it in a new way of using digital media. Instead of just moving by the digital media and creating sometimes a sense of motion sickness, it's going to kind of move in unison with the ride vehicle. So therefore it's kind of a fixed point. So therefore it feels like the media's moving with you, and it's a much better effect. And as we can see in the footage, it looks like there's a physical set piece in the background of this image here with the ride vehicle as well. But the other thing to note here is if it is using the Peter Pan ride system, it most likely is going to be using a solid state projection system as well, as they've already stated that that's what they use in the Tokyo Disney ride of the Peter Pan ride there. So the advantages of using a solid state projection system actually kind of removes some of the criticism that I often have about the 3D in rides, which I like 3D shows, but when it comes to 3D rides, when you're moving about, it can create a sense of motion sickness, and also it can create a duller, darker image just from wearing the glasses. But by using solid state projection systems here, it will have higher brightness better color accuracy and range of color within the image, and also higher frame rates and also smoother motion. So the smoother motion and the higher frame rates will help alleviate some of the motion sickness that sometimes is found within 3D based attractions which move about. And then the higher brightness and the better color accuracy will really make these images pop. So it won't be as noticeable that you're looking at a screen. The screen and the physical set pieces blend better together because the screen-based technology will be popping more in terms of the actual color and brightness of the projection. Now, the other thing I want to note here is that every Marvel ride that Disney's built so far has used screens pretty heavily within the attraction. And, you know, I like physical set piece attractions, you know, dark rides and stuff like that. But Web Slingers, Mission Breakout, Cosmic Rewind even, and Infinity Defense, they're all using screen-based technology. And I was thinking about this, and I came to the conclusion that there might be some logic behind using screen-based technology here for these kinds of rides, as the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the next 10, 15 years are going to look very different to the MCU that we have right now. There's going to be a whole different cast of characters, a whole different cast of superheroes within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And so if Imagineering is looking to future-proof the actual ride systems, but leave it open to be upgraded and improved over time, then using screen-based systems for these rides means that 10, 15 years from now, they could update these attractions with the latest cast of characters within the MCU and, you know, breathe some new life into the attraction itself. Much as we saw with Star Tours, was around for 20 years, and then in 2011, we got all new missions and scenes within the attraction itself, and it breathed all new life into Star Tours. So that could also be a benefit of using the screen-based technology within the Marvel rides. And then the other ride that they're building, called Stark Flight Lab, is going to be a flat ride, but it is an innovative flat ride. And we saw some new footage of the actual developmental work for this Stark Flight Lab within the Imagineering episode here. And we have it confirmed that there's going to be 12 articulating robotic arms that are going to be moving in synchronization. And Imagineering were inspired by the kick line that's often performed by dancers like the Radio City Rockettes. So it's going to be fairly impressive to just watch all of these massive robotic arms move in synchronicity with each other like that. But in terms of the story, the actual pod that we're sat within, there's going to be 2 people per pod. And these pods are called gyrokinetic pods. And as we can see here, it's using a technology which is either the same or very similar to the KUKA arm technology that can be found over at Universal within the Forbidden Journey ride. Or in actual fact, Disney used the KUKA arm technology as well within Nemo and Friends at the Seas Pavilion. You can't see it because it's pitch black in there, but it is actually on a KUKA arm, that fish character there within that attraction. So Disney has used this kind of robotic arm technology before, but this is the first time at large scale within this kind of attraction. And now the reason why this is an innovative use of this kind of ride system is traditionally, like at Forbidden Journey, the pod is permanently fixed to the robotic arm. But with this type of system, they're actually going to have the pods going along its own kind of conveyor belt track going around the outside, and then the robotic arm is going to come down and lock into place and pick up the pod from there. So there's going to be kind of a handoff and a transfer over to the robotic arm to then do all the flight simulation of whatever it's doing at the time, and then when it's done, it's going to put that pod right back down onto the track and the conveyor belt of the pods, and it's going to go back around and there's going to be an unload procedure. So with that being said, it means that at any one time within the attraction, you've got 12 pods of 2 people, so 24 people in motion in the air, dancing about, you know, in the flight simulation. There's also going to be 12 pods that are going to be cycling, ready to be picked up by the robotic arms on the track. And then there's also going to be another 12 pods that are going to be being loaded and unloaded on the track as well. And so there'll be 36 pods within this ride system. And that means that at any one time, there could be realistically around 72 people on the track. So if I just do some quick calculations here, it means that if we're to estimate that each ride time is roughly around 3 minutes, which is a decent ride time for a flat ride, it could result theoretically in roughly around 1,440 people per hour. Or if we're going to be a bit more conservative with the estimation here and say we're only going to take into consideration the 24 that are currently in motion, that will give us 960 people per hour, which means that it's going to add much needed capacity to Avengers Campus. And I think that's the main thing here. There's going to be a diversity of attraction. We've got the Web Slingers attraction, which I've been on now at long last. I actually managed to experience it over in Disneyland Paris. I've actually got to say, now actually experiencing Web Slingers for myself, it's one of those ones where seeing a ride POV or anything like that doesn't do it justice. You really got to experience it for yourself. It's a lot of fun. And I'm not even the biggest Spider-Man fan, but it was a lot of fun. I really did enjoy that attraction, more so than I thought I would. And in actual fact, we did actually get it confirmed on stage at South by Southwest that construction has begun on this expansion project, as after all, the red car trolley closed on February 8th and had its last day of operation, and the backstage barn, which housed the red car trolley as well, is going to be demolished soon, if not already has been demolished, and they'll begin site preparation and land clearing, ready to go vertical on the construction there. So I estimate roughly probably a maybe 3.5 year build time for this thing, potentially having it open for 2028 or at least 2029. And then staying with Disneyland, over at Disneyland Park, we've got the Fantastic Four characters are going to be coming, but they're not going to be coming to Avengers Campus. They're going to be coming to Tomorrowland instead this summer. And it was actually mentioned on stage at South by Southwest recently that the Fantastic Four First Steps art direction and the scenic design and the environmental design actually drew quite a lot of inspiration from Tomorrowland at Disneyland. So with them mentioning all this, it will be interesting to see. They're putting the Fantastic Four characters in Disneyland's Tomorrowland. They're talking about the connection between that and the movie. Potentially, could we see more Marvel presence at the Disneyland Resort but at Tomorrowland, and kind of see that retrofuturism kind of expand within Tomorrowland with a general overhaul of Tomorrowland? Now, that's just my own personal speculation, reading between the lines here, but I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility that that might be something that's in the cards in the future there. Also, Herbie, the robot butler character from Fantastic Four, will also be coming to Tomorrowland as well as a meetable, greetable character there, but it will be happening at a later stage. It won't be happening necessarily with the other Fantastic Four characters this summer. So that's everything in terms of the Disneyland Resort. Now I want to talk about Shanghai Disneyland and Hong Kong Disneyland. Now, Spider-Man Rollercoaster at Shanghai Disneyland. Now, there's actually been a public permit filed for this attraction, and within it, it shows us the actual footprint of what this Spider-Man attraction is going to be. Now, most likely, this is going to be a Vekoma manufactured launch coaster. But in this permit, we got the complete layout for this roller coaster track as well. Now, it doesn't look like much within the permit that you can see on the screen right now, but I've actually gone through meticulously and drawn out the actual layout of the roller coaster track. And here you can see the final version of the roller coaster track from this publicly available permit here. And the thing to note about this Spider-Man roller coaster is that it's not only got a forward-facing launch section within this coaster, but it's also got a reverse launch section within the coaster layout as well, which is going to make for quite the experience. And I don't think they're going for inversions here with this coaster. It's going to be very much a winding, weaving roller coaster that's going to be trying to aim for speed here rather than anything else. Now, it's very interesting to see Spider-Man being used for this roller coaster system. As you know, Spider-Man, you'd think the swinging arm roller coaster system that was patented many years ago by Imagineering would be a system that would be used for a Spider-Man roller coaster, but it'll be interesting to see how they work the Spider-Man character into this roller coaster itself, as you can see within the artwork here. And in many ways, this is very similar in the style of roller coaster as what can be found over at Hong Kong Disneyland with the big Grizzly Mountain Runaway Mine Cars roller coaster that can be found over there as we weave in and out of various locations. And whilst we're speaking about Hong Kong Disneyland, there's another attraction that's going to be themed to Spider-Man as well that was announced at D23, and this is going to be off Tomorrowland at that park and to the side of their version of Space Mountain. And DLP Works on Twitter actually posted this preliminary site plan last year, shortly after the announcement, and it shows the footprint of what this attraction will look like next to the rest of Tomorrowland there, the Stark Expo that you've got within Tomorrowland there. And this is interesting because this was the spot that was originally reserved for the Avengers HQ attraction, where we didn't actually get many more details on it, but we did get a fantastic piece of artwork for this way back in like 2016, 2017, roughly around then. And now we know that concept is fallen off the table, and what's replacing it is this new piece of artwork that we can see here with Doc Ock further down the lift shaft, and we've got Spider-Man lifting up what seems to be an elevator shaft there. So this is going to be a drop tower, very similar to Tower of Terror. But the one thing that we haven't got answered yet is how tall this is going to be. Or potentially, could they be digging down a little bit deeper and, you know, burying a bit of the drop tower underground as well? We don't know yet, but we've seen the preliminary site plan, we've seen the artwork, and it's something to keep an eye on because this is going to be an interesting attraction in itself as well, with it being a drop tower themed to Spider-Man. So those are the 4 new attractions that are being built for the Marvel studios at the Disney parks around the world over the next few years. But now it's over to you, the Waltineers. I would like to know, what are your thoughts and opinions on these various Marvel rides taking place around the world at the moment? And if you could create any Marvel ride at any one of the Disney parks, it could be anything, leave your comment down below of what that ride would be, what you'd call it, what you would theme it, and what kind of ride system you would use within that attraction. Love to hear your ideas for that as well. So with that being said, be sure to subscribe down below, hit the notification bell, and also check out the rest of the videos on this channel. And I also want to give a massive shout out to the official Waltineer Club over on Patreon for always supporting the channel. And I'd also like to give a shout out to the Waltineer Gold members that you can see here on the screen, as well as the official Waltineer Diamond members, JC Russell, Justin Tupper, and Tim Parsons. And with that being said for today, I've been Jack, you've been you, and I'll see you real soon.